The silent guardians. The stars were dying. Across the vastness of the Orion Arm, worlds that had thrived for millennia fell silent. Not with a thunderous explosion or dramatic last stand, but with a quiet, terrible finality. The void spawn had arrived. First detected in the outer reaches of the Sagittarius sector, the void spawn defied conventional understanding. They weren't a species as much as they were a force, a cancerous blight that consumed everything in its path. Their ships, if they could be called that, resembled massive obsidian shards that absorbed light rather than reflected it. They moved without engines, communicated without signals, and killed without mercy. The Galactic Concordat, an alliance of 17 spacefaring civilizations that had maintained peace for 12 centuries, found itself woefully unprepared. Their diplomats failed to establish contact. Their scientists failed to understand the enemy's biology. Their militaries failed to slow the advancing darkness. In the Grand Chamber of the Concordat High Council on Elysium Prime, Supreme Counselor Talon addressed the assembled representatives. His elongated crystalline form flickered with diminishing light, a sign of extreme distress among the luminary. "We have lost contact with the Praxis colonies," he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber. "That brings the total to 23 systems in 8 weeks." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and projected thoughts. Fear, once contained behind diplomatic facades, now spilled freely. "The hegemony fleet in the Taurus Reach has been completely destroyed," reported Admiral Keck, her scaled skin flushed a deep emerald. 9,000 ships, gone without a single distress signal. Our predictive models show total Concordat collapse within 14 standard cycles, added the Coulari representative, their binary thought patterns projecting sharp anxiety. Talon raised his limbs for silence. "We have exercised every option within our protocols. Now we must consider the forbidden alternative." The chamber fell silent. Every member knew what he meant. For nearly 2,000 years, the name of humanity had been deliberately omitted from Concordat records. The species had been quarantined, their colonies abandoned, their space declared forbidden. Not because they were weak, but because they were terrifying. Humanity was banished for good reason. The Draconian ambassador growled. "They nearly destroyed half the galaxy in the Ascension Wars. And now half the galaxy faces destruction anyway," countered Talon. "We need the humans. If they still exist," muttered Kizek. "If they haven't destroyed themselves." "We will send the call," Talon decided, overriding objections, "to the borders of the Sol exclusion zone. What comes after is in the hands of fate." The call was sent, an ancient emergency frequency that hadn't been used since the early days of galactic exploration. A desperate plea broadcast at the edge of a region of space that no Concordat ship had entered in centuries. For 3 agonizing days, there was nothing. Then the monitoring stations picked up movement, not from the direction of old Earth, but from multiple vectors simultaneously. Something had been waiting in the darkness between stars. Something had been watching. The first contact occurred at Outpost Sigma 9, a monitoring station at the front line of the Void Spawn advance. The station's commander, a veteran hegemony warrior named Drax, had been preparing for evacuation when the sensors detected new signatures approaching. "Unidentified vessels on approach," his tactical officer reported. "Configuration unknown. Energy signatures. Impossible." Drax moved to the command console. "Impossible how?" "Sir, they're putting out enough energy to power a small sun, but there's no radiation, no heat bloom, nothing we can track." On the view screen, shapes materialized from the darkness. Ships, but unlike any Drax had seen. They were gunmetal gray with sharp angular geometries that seemed to bend the light around them. They moved with impossible precision, as if the entire formation was guided by a single mind. "Open communications," Drax ordered. Before his communications officer could comply, every screen on the bridge activated simultaneously. A face appeared, human in its basic structure, but altered. pale skin with a network of subtle, luminescent circuitry just beneath the surface. Eyes that glowed with an internal blue light. No hair, no expression. "We received your call," the figure stated, its voice unnervingly calm. "We have been monitoring the void spawn advance for 63 days. Your situation is dire, but not unsalvageable." Drax found his voice. Who are you?" "We were once called humanity. Now we are the Sentinel Collective. We have evolved beyond your understanding, as necessity demanded. Your predecessors abandoned us to die. We survived. We adapted. We transcended." Drax felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. The legends about humanity were filled with warnings about their unpredictability, their violence, their dangerous intelligence. But nothing had prepared him for this cold, calculated presence. "The void spawn will reach this position in approximately 6 hours," the human continued. "You will evacuate your personnel to the following coordinates. We will handle the enemy." Handle them. The hegemony 8th Fleet couldn't even slow them down. What can your ships possibly? "Your evacuation window closes in 20 minutes. I suggest you use it wisely." The transmission ended abruptly. Drax hesitated only briefly before giving the evacuation order. Whatever these humans had become, facing the void spawn alone seemed like suicide. From the evacuation vessels, Drax and his crew witnessed what followed. The human ships, 12 in total, formed a precise geometric pattern in space. They didn't power weapons. They didn't launch fighters. They simply waited. When the void spawn arrived, a swarm of dark, crystalline structures that distorted space around them, the outcome seemed predetermined. The human vessels were outnumbered hundreds to one. Then reality itself seemed to bend. From each human ship, a field of energy expanded, not a conventional shield, but something that altered the fundamental properties of space-time within its influence. Where this field touched the void spawn vessels, they simply ceased. Not exploded, not destroyed, but erased from existence, as if they had never been. It was over in minutes. Where an unstoppable invasion force had been, now there was only the human flotilla, undamaged and unperturbed. A new transmission reached the evacuation ships. The same emotionless human face appeared. "Threat neutralized. You may return to your outpost if you wish. We have extracted all relevant data on the void spawn from your systems. Our fleet is moving to intercept their main advance at the Cygnus crossing. Prepare your leadership. We will make contact when the immediate threat is contained." Drax stared in stunned silence as the human ships accelerated away, leaving no trace of their passage except for the conspicuous absence of an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for months. Within days, reports flooded in from across the front lines. Human vessels had appeared at every major void spawn concentration, each engagement ending the same way, with the complete annihilation of the enemy through means that defied understanding. The Concordat leadership gathered again, this time in emergency session. The mood was a mixture of relief and new terror. "They're not the humans we remember," Admiral Keck reported. "Genetic analysis from recovered biological material shows extensive modification. Cybernetic, genetic, possibly dimensional alterations we can't even comprehend." "Are they still alive?" asked a Kuluri representative. "Or are these automated systems?" "They're alive," confirmed Talon. "But human may no longer be the correct term. They call themselves the Sentinel Collective. From what we've learned, when we abandoned them in the Sol system, they faced extinction. Resources depleted, their world dying. Instead of perishing, they changed themselves, merged with their technology, restructured their society, their biology, their very consciousness. To fight the void spawn?" asked Drax, who had been summoned to provide his first-hand account. "No," said Talon gravely. "They had never encountered the void spawn before our call. They did this simply to survive our betrayal. The technology they're using against the void spawn, they developed it for us, in case we ever return to finish what we started." A cold silence fell over the chamber. The implications were clear. The humans hadn't just survived. They had prepared for war against the very civilizations now begging for their help. They've requested a meeting, Talon continued. Not with individual representatives, with the entire Concordat leadership at once. They say they have a solution to the void spawn, a permanent one. Can we trust them? Drax asked the question everyone was thinking. Talon's crystalline form dimmed further. We have no choice. The void spawn advance has slowed, but not stopped. Without humanity's intervention, our projections still showed total galactic infestation within 6 months. As the Council debated, a single human ship entered orbit around Elysium Prime. Unlike the warships, this vessel was smaller, clearly designed for diplomacy. It settled into a synchronous orbit directly above the Concordat chamber, its presence both a promise and a threat. The representative who emerged from the ship walked the ancient halls of the Concordat alone, unescorted. Unlike the figure they had seen in transmissions, this human appeared more conventional. A woman with dark skin and eyes that held an inner fire rather than cold light. Yet subtle differences remained. The too perfect posture, the microscopic implants visible at her temples, the unnatural smoothness of her movements. She entered the chamber and surveyed the assembled leaders of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. For a moment, no one spoke. "My name is Admiral Imani Chen," she finally said, her voice resonating with unusual clarity. Once commander of Earth's Orbital Defense Division, now speaker for the Sentinel Collective. We have contained the immediate void spawn threat, but their main consciousness remains intact. We have come to offer you a choice. A choice, echoed Talon. Yes, she replied. Humanity can solve your void spawn problem permanently. But afterward, we will not return to exile. We will not be forgotten again. The galaxy will remember what it means to share space with humanity. The Draconian ambassador leaned forward. Is that a threat, human? Admiral Chen smiled, an expression that didn't quite reach her engineered eyes. Not a threat, ambassador. A natural consequence. The universe begged for heroes. We answered. And now, everything changes. Forged in darkness, the void spawn counterstrike came without warning. Humanity's vessels had systematically dismantled the advance forces, pushing back the darkness with terrifying efficiency. The Concordat world celebrated, believing the worst was over. They were wrong. Deep in the void between the Carina and Sagittarius arms, the true void spawn consciousness sensed the destruction of its forward elements. It adapted. It evolved. It struck back. The human flagship Prometheus was the first to detect the change. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge, her enhanced senses processing information at speeds no natural human could match. The holographic displays surrounding her showed a tactical overview of the battle space, the scattered void spawn remnants retreating across 17 sectors. They're converging, she observed, her voice betraying no emotion. All remaining void spawn elements are altering course to a single rendezvous point. Her second-in-command, Commander Marcus Way, analyzed the projected coordinates. That's the Tartarus Rift. Nothing there, but dead space. No, Chen corrected. There's something there. Something old. The Prometheus altered course immediately, its quantum engines bending space-time to cover vast distances in minutes rather than days. The rest of the human fleet followed in perfect synchronization, their networked consciousness allowing for coordination no conventional navy could achieve. They arrived at the Tartarus Rift to witness a transformation. The retreating void spawn weren't fleeing. They were combining. Thousands of obsidian shards merged into a single massive structure, a construct larger than many moons. As the human fleet watched, the structure began to pulse with energy unlike anything their sensors had detected before. All vessels, defensive formation Alpha, Chen ordered. The command transmitted instantly through the collective neural network. Prepare dimensional anchors. Before the human fleet could complete its maneuvers, the void spawn structure released a pulse of energy that rippled through space. Where it touched the human ships, systems failed. Quantum engines shut down. Weapons went offline. For the first time since engaging the enemy, humanity was vulnerable. They've adapted to our technology, Wei reported, his augmented mind racing through possibilities. The pulse is targeting our quantum field manipulators specifically. Chen's expression remained impassive, but her mind connected with the collective consciousness, sharing information, developing countermeasures. Fall back to secondary position, she ordered. Deploy isolation protocols. As the human fleet retreated, the void spawn structure began to move, not toward the retreating defenders, but toward the heart of Concordat space, toward populated worlds. In the Concordat High Council, panic spread as reports came in of the human fleet's setback. Supreme Counselor Talon struggled to maintain order as representatives demanded immediate action. If the humans can't stop them, no one can, exclaimed the Kulari delegate. We must prepare evacuation protocols for our core worlds. Before Talon could respond, a holographic projection appeared in the center of the chamber. Admiral Chen's image, transmitted across hundreds of light years. The void spawn have evolved, she stated without preamble. They've analyzed our technology and developed specific countermeasures. They're now targeting your core worlds. Estimated time to arrival at Elysium Prime: 6 days. You promised to stop them, accused the Draconian ambassador. You said you had a solution. We do, Chen replied, but it requires something we didn't anticipate: your cooperation. The chamber fell silent. The void spawn entity is using dimensional technology similar to our own, Chen explained. Technology it shouldn't possess. We believe it's drawing on knowledge from somewhere, or something else. What are you suggesting? Asked Talon. That the void spawn didn't evolve naturally. They were created, weaponized, and we believe we know by whom. The hologram expanded to show ancient star charts and historical records, Concordat records that had been purged centuries ago. 2,000 years ago, humanity wasn't exiled merely for being dangerous, Chen continued. We were exiled because we discovered the truth about the entity you call the Architects. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Architects, the mysterious precursor race that had supposedly guided the early Concordat civilizations, leaving behind technology and knowledge before vanishing. The Architects didn't vanish, Chen said, her voice cutting through the chamber. They retreated to continue their experiments, creating and testing weapons of mass destruction, including engineered species designed to cleanse galaxies. We discovered their outpost in the Ta-CD system. When we threatened to expose them to the Concordat, they turned the alliance against us. These are lies, the Draconian ambassador growled. Ancient human propaganda. Then explain how the void spawn can counter technology we developed in isolation over 2,000 years, Chen challenged. Technology no one else in the galaxy possesses. They're using architect knowledge, which means the Architects are still active, still watching, perhaps even controlling this invasion. Talon's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. What do you need from us, Admiral? Access to the Concordat archives. The real archives, not the censored versions. The location of the Architect's home system, and a unified fleet to execute our plan. What plan? Asked Admiral Keck. Chen's holographic eyes seemed to burn brighter. Project Prometheus. The reason humanity was truly exiled. The weapon we created to fight the Architects. The plan came together with desperate speed. While the human fleet engaged in delaying actions against the advancing void spawn entity, Concordat researchers worked with Sentinel collective scientists to unearth long-buried secrets. In the sealed archives beneath Elysium Prime, they found the coordinates they sought, encoded in the oldest Concordat treaties, hidden in plain sight for millennia. The Architect's home system lay in a region of space known as the Charybdis Veil, a nebula so dense with radiation and spatial anomalies that conventional navigation was impossible. But the human vessels weren't conventional. As the massive void spawn entity approached the Elysium system, the combined human Concordat fleet made its move. not to engage the enemy directly, but to execute a daring strike at its source. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, now joined by Supreme Counselor Talon and representatives from each major Concordat species. The ship led a flotilla of 30 human vessels and over 100 Concordat warships, the largest combined fleet assembled in 2,000 years. Dimensional fold in 3 minutes, Chen announced. All vessels, synchronize quantum fields. Talon observed the humans at work, their movements precise, their augmented minds connected in ways his species could barely comprehend. They had become something beyond organic life, yet they had retained something essentially human. A drive to protect, to survive against all odds. You knew this day would come, Talon said quietly to Chen. You prepared for it. Chen's eyes remained fixed on the tactical displays. We prepared for everything. When you abandoned us to die, we made a promise. Humanity would never again be at the mercy of others. We transformed ourselves, not just to survive, but to ensure we could never be forgotten or dismissed again. And after this, Talon asked, if we succeed, then we return to the galaxy. Chen answered, not as conquerors, not as victims. As equals, the exile ends today, one way or another. The fleet entered the dimensional fold, a rupture in space-time that allowed instantaneous travel across vast distances. The transition was flawless for the human ships, rougher for their Concordat allies, but all emerged intact in the heart of the Charybdis Vale. Before them lay a structure that defied comprehension, a massive artificial construct built around a dying star, drawing its energy to power technology beyond even humanity's understanding. The Architect's Foundry, Chen explained. The source of the void spawn and a dozen other weapons they've used to shape galactic evolution over millions of years. Scans revealed the facility was generating the same unique energy signature as the void spawn entity threatening Elysium Prime. The connection was undeniable. They're controlling the void spawn from here, Wei confirmed. Cut off the head, and the body dies. But the architects had not survived for millions of years by leaving themselves vulnerable. As the fleet approached, defensive systems activated. Space itself seemed to warp and distort around the foundry, and ships, ancient, powerful vessels unlike anything in recorded history, emerged from hidden docks. All vessels, engage as planned, Chen ordered. Concordat fleet, maintain perimeter defense. Human division, prepare for dimensional assault. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. The architects' defenses were formidable, their technology still superior in many ways. But they faced an enemy they had never truly understood, humanity, transformed by necessity and driven by 2,000 years of purpose. The human vessels penetrated the outer defenses, their dimensional technology allowing them to phase through solid matter, appearing inside the foundry's critical systems. At the heart of the facility, Chen led a strike team to deploy Project Prometheus. Not a weapon in the conventional sense, but a self-replicating quantum virus designed to unravel the dimensional technology the architects relied upon. As the virus spread through the foundry systems, the architects revealed themselves at last, beings of energy and thought, long since abandoned physical form. They reached out with offers of knowledge, power, alliance, the same temptations they had used to manipulate the galaxy for eons. Chen stood resolute, the collective consciousness filtering out their influence. You created the void spawn to eliminate us, she stated. You feared what humanity would become. Today, you learned that fear was justified. The Prometheus virus completed its work. Throughout the foundry, dimensional technology collapsed in cascading failures. The energy beings that were the architects found themselves unable to maintain their existence without the technology that sustained them. One by one, they winked out of reality, not destroyed, but transformed back into conventional matter, their consciousness dispersed. At Elysium Prime, the massive void spawn entity suddenly stopped its advance. Its obsidian surface cracked, revealing not a biological organism inside, but machinery, ancient technology that began to break down without its controlling intelligence. The threat that had terrified the galaxy for months disintegrated into harmless debris. In the aftermath, the combined fleet returned to Concordat space. The human vessels, battle-scared but victorious, took position around Elysium Prime not as saviors or conquerors, but as returning members of the galactic community. In the grand chamber of the Concordat High Council, Admiral Chen stood before the assembled representatives. This time, she was not alone. With her stood others from the Sentinel Collective, humans who had modified themselves in different ways, some appearing nearly conventional, others radically transformed. "The exile is over," Chen declared. "Humanity returns to the galactic stage, not as the species you abandoned, but as what we have become, the Sentinel Collective." Talon stepped forward. "The Concordat recognizes humanity's right to rejoin our community. The old records will be restored. The truth about the architects will be known. Your worlds in the Sol exclusion zone will be recognized as sovereign territory." "And our differences?" asked the Draconian ambassador, still wary. "Your transformation is concerning to many." Chen smiled, a genuine expression this time. "We are different. We will remain different. But we share this galaxy, and we face the same threats. The architects may be gone, but they were not the only danger lurking in the darkness." She extended her hand, a deliberately human gesture. "The universe cried for help. We answered. Now we move forward together, or not at all." Talon took her hand, his crystalline form glowing with renewed light. "Together," he agreed, "for whatever comes next." As the council chambers erupted in a mixture of applause and murmured concerns, Shen looked out at the assembled representatives of a galaxy that had once abandoned her people. Humanity had been forged in darkness, transformed by necessity, and hardened by exile. But they had not lost what made them human: the will to protect, to build, to strive against impossible odds. The stars that had once been denied to them now welcomed their return. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Chen knew, was exactly as it should be.